going to April 10th, 2012. You get some intel in the afternoon that there's a IED out in the village and you guys are going to go check it out. And here we're going to the book. We hiked only about 400 yards to the village. In addition to my weapons team, there were other squads along on patrol, a total of 28 soldiers. My lieutenant, Zachary Lewis, went to the left with the first and second squads heading to meet with the village elders, while the rest of our men went with me around the village to the outside to offer support in case of an attack. Along with my gun team, I had my platoon sergeant and a medic, Sergeant Daniel Bateson, with my group. All looked calm. It was just another day in Afghanistan. Another normal patrol. We approached an abandoned ANA security post, 2 portable buildings, and stopped near the buildings to establish a security perimeter. I called for Fessy to bring the minesweeper. Check this area, was the only order I gave. Fessy walked up a path used by villagers and scanned all the area around. He went up and back, and all was clear. No beeps. There was no reason to question anything. Fessy finished his minesweeping duties and went to set up on the far flank. I called Riot up to me and asked him where he thought we should put the gun. I knew where it should go, but I wanted to let him decide, making sure he knew his stuff. He motioned to exactly where I thought we should put it, a good spot, and I said, "All right, go get Neff and bring him up here." That was it. Riot left to go get Neff, and as he did, I set my backpack down. The backpack touching the dirt was all it took. Such a simple act of war. My world erupted. I saw a flash of flame and heard a huge kaboom. Hot, jagged pieces of explosives ripped through me. I cartwheeled backward, end over end, hit the ground, and slammed my face hard against the compacted earth. Instantly, I felt my left eye starting to swell shut. I smelled burning flesh. My own. I tasted dirt, and I was wet with sweat and moisture just like I'd walked out of a hot shower. Dirt fell everywhere through the air. It rained down and clung to my eyes, nose, and mouth. I don't remember rolling over, but I must have, because I glanced to the side and saw that my right arm was completely gone. I caught a glimpse of my left arm covered in blood and tattered. My arm trembled as if it had a will of its own. I looked down and saw my right leg was also gone. The stump looked like a piece of raw meat. The bottom of my left leg was still attached, but held on only by a few strands of skin. I saw all this in a flash, in an instant. I felt confusion but no panic. My first thought was of my guys. I flopped my remaining arm toward the microphone clipped to my carrier plate and somehow managed to push the button. "I hit a bomb," I said. "I need help." Bateson, my medic, rushed up to me along with Staff Sergeant Keith Hambright, our platoon sergeant. Only about 30 seconds had passed since the blast. Immediately, they applied tourniquets to hold whatever blood was still inside me. "I'm not going to make it," I said. "Leave me and go to save my guys." "Shut up, Sergeant Mills," said Bateson. "Let me do my job." I ignored Bateson and yelled my men's name like roll call. Fessy, Riot, Neff, to see if they were okay. 2 were hit, Fessy and Riot, and other medics were already caring for them. They were bleeding, but nothing was missing. They yelled back that they were going to be okay. I calmed down. More soldiers ran toward me. Sergeant Alec's voice, another medic, wondered aloud where to best get IV access. There were no pulses to check except for my carotid artery. He quickly ripped open my vest, shaved a spot on my chest, and put an IV straight into my sternum. It hurt going in, and I must have howled because he yelled at me that I was going to be fine. I yelled back, "Doc, shut up, I know." He and I both calmed down. Someone stuck a fentanyl pop in my mouth. It's a potent painkiller that releases as the pop dissolves. I downed the first one, spit out the stick, and asked for another. "You won't need it," someone said. I was still thinking that I was going to die. I didn't want to show fear. I didn't want to freak out. You never want to show fear around your men. Let my family know I dealt with it without crying, I said. Tell him yourself, someone grunted. He was being encouraging, letting me know I wasn't dead yet. I tried to see around me. I raised my head, wanting to get a visual of Fessy and Riot. Someone shoved my head back down. Lie still, commanded a voice. My one eye was swollen completely shut. The other eye was blurry from dirt. I tried to raise my head again. Again, I was pushed flat. My eyes were watering now, the dirt turning to mud. Time passed and I didn't know what was happening. I mumbled something, but there was no reply. Only the steady whoop, whoop, whoop of a Black Hawk helicopter touching down nearby. 6 men surrounded me, hefted me up, and carried me over. All told, it might have been 10 minutes since the blast until the helicopter arrived. Fessy and Riot were first inside the helicopter. Everything was foggy and noisy, and I couldn't make out my surroundings clearly. My 2 guys were on seats, and I saw blood and bandages jumbled in their direction. Fessy had shrapnel in his face. Riot had shrapnel in his face, legs, and hands. Their images faded away. I focused on the noise of the rotors. We were in the air, and the flight medic were taking care of me. Riot yelled in pain. I tried to look around. Someone needed to attend to Riot. Where are the medics? One of the medics was talking to the pilots up front. Riot was yelling again. I looked in Fessy's direction and told him to calm down. Fessy nodded. Riot stopped yelling, and I winked at him to let him know he was going to be okay. It was all I could think to do. The flight medic was back in view. I could barely see him through the goop in my eyes. He wore a green flight suit and had a big Darth Vader helmet. I tried to speak. He gave me a quizzical look. I yelled as loud as I could, "Take your helmet off." He took his helmet off. "Give my guys water and tell them they're going to be okay," I barked. "Don't worry, I'll take care of them for you," he said. He was busy with some task on me that I couldn't see. A moment went by, and I added, "I'm sorry." "For what?" the medic asked. "For making you take your helmet off." He gave me a wry grin. I realized he'd been doing his job all along, doing it well. Both the medics had. I just couldn't see all that was happening around me. My mind went in and out. I was coherent but fuzzy in spots. In 15 minutes, the helicopter landed in Kandahar. Hospital staff rushed me straight to the operating table. "We're going to put you under now," came a voice from above me. "I'm fine," I said. "Leave me alone." The mask came over my face and I tried to push it away. I remember asking one question. Am I ever going to see my baby girl again?
A little intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. There might have been some more choice words I didn't put in the book. I said to the flight medic, I had to yell 3 times. And then the last time I threw the F word in there, "Take your effing helmet off." And he did. In my head, I was just thinking, Saving Private Ryan, don't go out yelling for your mom like the medic when he got shot in the movie. And I just, I was a guy that I had a sniper round cracked next to my head, and I rolled in, and I was so embarrassed that I rolled away from it that I stood on top of the mountain and shot off a magazine and a half before I got back down. Mm-hmm. And so just the whole don't show fear, I figured I can't change what happened right now. If I raise my pulse, I'm going to bleed faster. And, thanks to my platoon sergeant, Sergeant Hambright, and Doc Bates, and then Doc Voice, I was able to maintain most of my blood.
They must have slapped those things on you quick, tourniquets.
Oh, within 20 seconds or 30 seconds, I think.
And was the aircraft airborne somewhere and got redirected to you? How did you guys get a helicopter there so fast?
I don't know. We usually only went out when there was helicopters on station, because the threat was so real. Not that we need to talk about this and you guys can edit it out, but at nighttime, the Taliban had free reign to do what they wanted. We were told because of politics or whatever, somebody said we couldn't go out at nighttime. So we had the best nighttime capabilities, but we couldn't go out. So on the raid camera, 30 feet in the air, we would watch them on the screen and watch them put bombs in at nighttime. And we couldn't shoot them, couldn't shoot mortars at them, and couldn't get them. So it kind of sucked because you'd watch them put the bombs in, then the next day you're supposed to go out and try to find them. And that's why in 2012...
So you say they wouldn't let you shoot them?
They wouldn't let us go out and get them. They're like, no, I can't go out at nighttime. And we're like, but we can see them. I mean, I don't mind if you guys talk about it.
No.
It doesn't bother me.
It's a reality.
I don't like it. I don't want, you don't get political, so you don't have to on this with me, but just watching them put bombs in, knowing I had to go out and try to find them. And then the guy that I found, or we walked back through, 7 different firefights and 10 clicks, when they went out to do the surveillance on the site I got blown up at, there was 13 in a row right there. And for some reason, the minesweeper, Brandon, went up and down, not once but twice, and nothing alarmed him. So there was 6 daisy chained together called a squad killer. So you had to be the front guy to hit the first one, and then everybody behind him would get just taken out. So in a way, it was probably better that I got hit that day than have somebody walk past and hit it, and then everybody behind him get taken out too. So just the politics of war, I guess, kind of sucked because I would watch them put bombs in. They couldn't shoot them. The Kiowas would come out station. The guy shooting at us 800 yards away would drop their weapons and walk away. And all of a sudden, they were no longer a combatant until the Kiowas were out of fuel. And we weren't going to run, 1,000 meters this way because if we did, then the guys would just leave their AKs and take off. So, the red tape. But when I got blown up, I did radio my LT and tell him, I got hit. I don't know how bad it is. And I told my medic, get away from me, and he kept fighting me off and telling me to let me do my job. Then the doctors worked on me for 14 hours, I was told. 9 doctors and 7 nurses. And 2 nurses for 9 hours pumped air in and out of my lungs to keep me alive. Took turns pumping air. I was so low on blood, they did over 30 transfusions.
Damn.
And they didn't have enough in stock. So they were on the big speaker in Kandahar saying, A positive blood and universal, we need it now. And they were I had a lot of tests I had to do for possible HIV or things like that because it was just
they were just taking and putting it right in.
Yep, cool. All right, thanks for your blood. We're gonna put it right in them. They knocked me out medically, maybe unconscious, and they kept me like that for 4 days. So
I just realized, I always say God bless the machine gunners, but how about a little God bless the doctors and nurses for sure?
Oh, absolutely. Damn. And the medics. I mean,
and the medics.
Every time I go and I speak, I my one slide's about perspective, and I tell them, about the guys that have not made it back home, and I'm thankful to still be around and living, and I'm going to keep living, for them, so that their sacrifice wasn't in vain. Because what happened to me is nowhere near what happened to my buddy Francis Gene Phillips IV, or Frankie, great friend of mine. He died. Left behind a wife and a 4-year-old at the time. So I'm thankful for the medical advancements. In Vietnam, a lot of guys didn't come back like me. And I get sometimes people like, well, we just didn't see people like you during the Vietnam War. It's so sad this happened. And I say, well, that's because the guys, they didn't come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, then the doctors knew how to tie things in. And my calf muscles are on the end of my left leg now, I guess, for padding or something. Just nuts, But that was on the 10th, and then I still had my left hand when they got done working on me. My wrist was blown out pretty bad by my finger, my index, my middle, and my thumb. And then 2 days later in Bagram, they cut it off. My brother-in-law flew in from his outpost to Kandahar with me and escorted me. Because did you guys have to fill blue books out before you deployed? We call it the blue book. It's like, if I die, bury me with this.
It's not a blue book, but we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. It was like a little blue pamphlet. They call it the blue book in the Army, but it's like, if I die, I want my wedding ring, I want a picture of my wife and I and my kid, or, I want this music to play.
Right.
Basically, playing your funeral is kind of morbid, but I guess it's all right. But he was the guy who was supposed to escort my body back home. So he came to where I was at, and then they shipped me to Bagram on April 12th. And on April 12th, they took a look at my hand, like, it's not going to make it. It's just necrotizing, and, limb length is a huge thing, so they cut it off. And then, so they didn't tell him they were doing it. So I rolled into surgery, and I came back, and my hand was gone. But I didn't know because I was still, medically or sedated.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 days later, they went for the very first time on April 14th. And when I woke up in the room, my brother-in-law, he was one to tell me, but I don't know if I put it in the book. I don't think I did. April 14th, actually my birthday.
Yeah.
So my 25th birthday, I found out I was a quadruple amputee. And it's funny because on my first deployment, when I didn't know about amputations and things, and Josh was just a friend of mine, not my brother-in-law, I was like, look, I'm very athletic. I play a lot of sports. If I lose a leg or something, just let me bleed out. Like, I mean, I was that naive at 19 years old. Like, if I lose a hand, just I don't need to live, because I didn't know any different. Where now I wake up with no arms and legs, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, at least I made it, I guess.
Meanwhile, back on the home front, going to the book, Kelsey received a call at 11:53 a.m. her time while standing in her parents' kitchen in Dallas, Texas. She was making a tuna fish sandwich. And then it's the commander on the phone, and she describes, he tells her straightforward, the severe injury. And this is what she wrote in her journal. I could not wrap my head around the pain my husband must be feeling. I was all alone in the house, and my actions upset my daughter to the point where she was screaming. I could do nothing to soothe her. I couldn't pick her up. I couldn't look at her. My body felt like it was being torn in two. I wanted so badly to be able to talk to Travis and let him know I love him and that I thanked God that he was still alive. Then it continues on. Kelsey called my dad in Michigan, but when she tried to tell him what happened, little would come out. My dad knew something was wrong and kept repeating, "Is he alive? Is he alive? Is he alive?" And then your dad said this, until you go through something like that yourself, it's hard to describe the feeling. There's no eating anymore. You don't leave the house. There's a lot of pacing around. You just wait. Whenever the phone rang, we jumped. You look at the phone and you don't know if you want to answer it or not. So it wasn't just you that got hit. Too, your family back home gets hit with the shock of all this, and also in your squad, Theriot.
Yeah, Theriot.
Which is the coolest name ever, because it
yeah.
spells the riot, and yeah. I mentioned him earlier. But yeah, he got wounded.
He was pretty bad. I mean, he was able to get up and walk a couple days after. He was sore for quite a bit.
And then Fessy got hit as well.
He did, and luckily he had his sunglasses on because his face was just blasted, but he still has his vision. He's doing great. Just got engaged, so. It's just a bad day. My dad, when he says you don't eat and do that stuff, he actually was in the hospital with me and he got diverticulitis real bad, and he almost died. He was so dehydrated. They had to go in and give him surgery and he had to for 6 months. He'd probably be mad if I told everybody, but he had a colostomy bag because he got so dehydrated. Because he cared, it was just so worrisome for him. And then when I woke up, I was kind of a dick. I didn't want to, my brother-in-law was like, you got to call, Kelsey, you got to call your mom and dad. And I'm like, I'm not talking to anybody. Because, you're angry, you're upset, you're questioning, does God hate me? Am I a bad person? What did I do wrong in life to get this? I mean, I pay my taxes, I have a family. Why would this happen to me? And then a little bit goes to Forrest Gump, where it's Lieutenant Dan, no, what the hell? Why didn't I live through this? Is this some kind of sick punishment that for something I did wrong? And you come to a realization hey, you know what? Just sometimes bad things happen to good people. It is what it is. You can't change it. You might as well keep pushing forward. And it's nothing I did wrong in life. It's just what was slated. So, that's what happened.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. That one of the guys on the medevac bird wrote a Facebook to Kelsey and was explaining, what it was like, and here's what he wrote. My name is First Sergeant Waite. The other flight medic was Staff Sergeant Hawker Smith. You belong to a family of warriors. Other wounded soldiers in the aircraft were injured and screaming, but your husband was more worried about them than himself. He describes how you were doing the thing and tell him to take his helmet off and here going back to the book, his face was dirty and there was dust in his eyes, but he never shed a tear. I replay in my mind a moment when he looked at another wounded soldier and winked to reassure him that it would be okay. My crew is still on duty in his unit's area now. We go back to Kandahar on Monday, but we won't go back the same way. I'm an E8, but this E6 is the example for myself and others to emulate.
I had to get I was strapped down, so I had to get my arm out, because when I was yelling at him, I was like, hey, take your helmet off. I said, take your helmet off. And I got my arm off.
Dude, how the hell were you conscious, man? That's freaking crazy.
Good genes, I guess. But I pulled my arm out, and I said, take your, helmet off, F-word helmet off. And I put my hand over my head to motion, as my arms drooping down or whatever, but I was just like, take your helmet off. And then he did. And I was like, give my guys water, tell him to be fine. And then later I did apologize for yelling at him. I was like, hey, sorry I yelled and swore at you. But, at that time, I guess maybe it was easier for me to like think about everything else going on except for myself.
Yeah.
And I just figured it is what it is. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And it doesn't do me any justice to scream out or yell or be afraid. I mean, hey, I can't change what's going on right now, so just do the best I can to, help the situation.
Yeah. Oh, man. And Josh shows up. Like, you just talked about this, and Josh just saying, hey, I'm going to tell it to you straight. Because you said to Josh, hey, am I paralyzed? And I'm going to the book here. No, man, Josh said, you're not paralyzed. You don't need to lie to me, I whispered. I can take it. I'm going to tell you straight. Josh knew I'd want to know the truth. You're not paralyzed, but both your arms and legs are gone. The date was April 14th, 2012. Still the same day as when I'd heard the news. I was a quadruple amputee. It was my 25th birthday.